Hello, I want to tell you a story. This is a folk story that I learned when I was a teenager. It's a Jack the Giant Killer story. There's a whole body of Jack stories that are originally from England and other places, I guess. This one is probably from the 19th century, I'm not certain. It's a story about Jack before all the beanstalk and giant killer stuff. Jack's family were very poor, and a long time ago when families were very poor, they couldn't afford to feed everybody. So they would sometimes send their children away, and the way it was done back then is you apprenticed them to somebody else. It's also called becoming an indentured servant. Another word for that is a slave, but it was allowed back then. Anyway, Jack was apprenticed to an old woman who had a farm not far away from where he was from. This old woman was particularly crotchety. She was all bent up with age. Her neck was cricked over and her body was bent, and everything about her was painful. So she really did need the services of a strong boy. And Jack worked very hard. One of the duties that the woman required, though, was for Jack to pull on her muscles, to pull on her arms and her legs and her neck, to loosen things up. And like I said, she was particularly crotchety, so she wasn't very nice when Jack was doing this. And so if Jack was pulling on her arm, she would always say, "Harder, Jack, harder, that's not hard enough." And he did his best. But what she most liked was when he would pull on her head and her neck to straighten out the bones and to loosen up the muscles. And when Jack would do this, there would be a point where there would be a pop, and then she'd be satisfied for the moment. Of course, her muscles and bones would eventually tighten up again, and he'd have to do it again. Because of the way she felt, she was very sensitive to the weather, especially in the winter. Things would become even tighter. One winter, on a particularly bad day, she called Jack in and had him begin to pull on her neck. And she was going, "Harder, harder, Jack, that's not hard enough." And he was to pull harder and harder, and eventually her head popped off her body, landed in a corner, and in a very satisfied voice, the head said, "That's hard enough." And that was the end of Jack's apprenticeship. And that's the end of the story. Hope you enjoyed it.